Okay. Hold on a second. We won't be okay. We'll just let them get to the seats. Okay, 7 o'clock, we'll start. There's some that are coming late, so be prepared to be disturbed. Not a great deal, but we'll crack on. Apologies, any apologies? Rupert? On his way in, yeah.
Got Councillor Brown sends apologies. She might be in later just because of traffic really bad coming into Newcastle.
Okay. Anybody else?
Councillor Hutchinson, I'll be in a second.
Okay. Your substitute, okay. Any declarations of interest? Councillor Norton? So any questions on number 5 is going to be yours, is it then? Or you can answer them. Minutes of previous meetings, do we all agree? Right, okay. Make a note of that.
Sorry to interrupt. Could I just remind people to use the microphones, please, because we're not getting any sound through up here. Thank you.
Okay. Update from Cabinet?
Not from me.
Just slightly going backwards now to number 4 for an update from Cabinet. We have an update. Technical issue, we're going to come back. Okay. Number 5, Staffordshire Health and Care Overview and Scrutiny. Are we willing to accept it, or is there any questions on it? Accept it, right. Next, Walleys Quarry. So I'll take it.
Yeah, that'll be me this evening. So thank you, Chair. I'll take you through the update report, which is the monthly update report that goes to Cabinet. I won't go through the first couple of sections. They are similar to what you have seen previously, but I thought tonight it would be useful to concentrate in terms of the last couple of months, which have, through this report, you can see have shown an upturn in terms of complaints and things. So section 3 of the report goes through and gives you the summary of the complaints between February, March, April and May. And what you'll see is in April and May, there has been an increase in complaints both to ourselves and to the Environment Agency during that period. There was a number of days listed where we've had over 10 complaints per day, which has been quite an increase from what we had previously, both throughout April and May. And the highest of those was received on the 25th of April when the council received 47 individual complaints. And the longest period when we had complaints consistently over 10 ran from the 15th to the 23rd of May, which was a total of 9 days. Section 4 goes through the air quality monitoring station data. So there are the 4 mobile air quality monitoring stations. Again, the table on page 14 does show the results, and that's the percentage exceedance of the annoyance threshold for the hydrogen sulfide levels. And it's that percentage exceedance per week. I think what that data does show us is it does show, particularly at MMF 9 on Gallingale, which has historically been the monitoring point where they have had the highest results, that again, there has been that same upturn in the H2S levels, which do correlate quite well to the actual complaint levels. And on page 15, you can see that in terms of the graph that's presented there. So the bars show the MMF percentage exceedance levels, and then the two lines, the blue one is the complaints to Newcastle Borough Council, and the orange one is the complaints to the Environment Agency. I think, as you can see, both of the complaints track quite well. But historically, there's always been more complaints to the Environment Agency than to ourselves. But as you can see, when there's the spikes at the MMFs in terms of the H2S levels, then the complaints correspond relatively well in terms of those. So section 5 of the report updates in terms of the Environment Agency regulation and enforcement action that they've taken. So this is a summary of their weekly updates that the EA put on their website. So you can see in there that they have undertaken 4 site visits. There's a review of the gas capture rate, which is the extraction rate and the amount of gas that's collected from the landfill and going into the flare, and also the hydrogen sulfide concentration at that gas utilisation plant. So there's a summary of that. I think what you can see is that there is an area where that does peak. However, in June, it has started to return again in terms of those concentrations. What can be seen is the extraction rate is relatively constant. However, in June, that has increased slightly to about 3,332 metre cubed an hour. So I think you members may be aware that the EA have also taken some enforcement action against Walleys Quarry in relation to non-compliances about their pre-acceptance and acceptance procedure for waste operations. So there's some details in the report, and this follows an audit that the Environment Agency have undertaken to review those pre-acceptance and waste acceptance criteria. And they have served a Regulation 36 enforcement notice on Walleys Quarry to amend some of their procedures. I think in terms of page 17, there's also another graph, which, and this is an Environment Agency graph, but it does show the extent of change over a longer period, really, since this incident started. And you can see, although, from where we were in, 2021 and through 2022 to where we are now, we're still a lot further down in terms of concentrations and in terms of complaints, despite that uptick that we have received in May. So section 6 of the report goes through what we at the Borough Council have done in response to the complaints that we've received. So we've been analysing the complaint data and the Met conditions to prioritise and undertake visits to monitor and assess the odour. We've completed that odour monitoring during the daytime and out of hours. One thing that has become evident is that those complaints are being received late at night or very early in the morning. So that's when we've been visiting. So we've done those out of hours visits. We've also been contacting some of the residents. So we get a text message when people are complaining about that. If we are doing some monitoring and we're able to contact those residents, we will do that directly. And we have been to see a number of people in the early hours of the morning. So we've liaised with the operator, we shared the results of our odour assessments, and we've asked them to undertake their own investigations. We've undertaken some joint monitoring visits with the Environment Agency. We've undertaken some work with the Environment Agency to review the data and information, and we've worked with partner organisations in relation to health. And like I say, we have written to Walleys Quarry to request their data and their investigations in relation to the matter. So the key performance data that we have and we collate each month are reported in the appendices, but that's my update in terms of Walleys Quarry, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Have any got Rupert?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Yes, unfortunately, with complaints ticking up a little bit in the last couple of months, is the council going to consider reusing the Jerome devices they previously had in place around the site, especially considering one of the monitoring stations is likely to disappear soon. Is the council going to make more use of drones or not?
So we have been using the drones, and we've been using those to support the officer visits. So when I've been going out in the early hours of the morning, I've taken the drones with me. So it acts as a measurement device, and I can relate that quite clearly to what I'm detecting with my nose, so it gives you that numerical figure. So we have been doing that, and they've been proving extremely useful in that way. So I think at this moment in time, our preferred approach is to remain using them, but to use them in that manner to support the officers when they're actually going out and doing the visits.
Just ask, is there any confusion with the odour coming from the old McGuinness's site down Port Hill Bank? I've seen loads of complaints about that, but it isn't the borough, is it? Is it Jonathan Gullis I need to get on to? Or Stoke-on-Trent, yeah. So
maybe if I can clarify. So
yes.
In relation to this, some complaints have been made, and assuming it's Wally. So we have been doing quite a lot of work to differentiate in terms of complaints where this potential source of that is. So that site that you're talking about is within Stoke-on-Trent. It is an EA regulated site again. So you can direct your complaints to Stoke-on-Trent City Council or to the Environment Agency. Those would be the first port of call. However, nuisance legislation, which is the similar sort of action that we've used for Walleys, means that even though the site isn't within our area, if it's our residents that are affected, they can complain to us and we will, undertake those investigations. What I would ask is that if they are going to do that and you're going to direct people, if they could use the pollution online form rather than the very specific Walleys Quarry one, that would help us in terms of differentiating.
Rupert?
Thank you. I think since this report was published, I think there's been two other significant things happen, hasn't there? There's been the Walleys have announced themselves they're going to be doing some permanent capping on the eastern flank, because I think that was something the EA was looking into as potentially what happened in April and May. So that's one thing. And also the EA public drop-in, they've announced on the 20th, I think, in case members aren't aware, that on the 20th at Newcastle Fire Station, they are doing public drop-in, and we need to try and advertise that as much as possible to our residents that are affected to go along to this and ask the right questions to the EA, who are ultimately the ones who are regulating this site. Thank you.
Come back in relation to that, in relation to the capping, I think that's something that, obviously throughout this process, the capture, contain and destroy in terms of the gas management is key to it. So that will help contain. So I think that's really good news in terms of that capping, and we would welcome any of that. So I think that's really positive and very timely in relation to it. And just in relation to the public drop-in session, yes, that is correct. There's a number of partner agencies that they're including ourselves. So I will be there, and I'm happy to talk to people in relation to our activities. The Environment Agency will be there, and I think the UK HSA are also going to be there.
Number 7, Police Commander, review on new policing. John, would you like to take it away?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody. John Owen, Police Commander for the Borough. Just asked to give you a very brief update on where we are since the inception of new model back in June 22. We are 2 weeks off being 12 months in. So just some just a very brief update, and then any questions from anybody. So across the board within Staffordshire Police, we've seen an increase in numbers. We're just short of 2,000 now across the board, which is an increase from where we were some years ago, but still considerably short from where we have been through the previous years. Since inception of the new model, can I categorically say that things have improved for the the Borough of Newcastle I can. I think the service that we offer now quantitatively is significantly better, and I think qualitatively has really improved too. To kind of back some of that up, our response times have improved. There are blue light jobs and our grade 2s, so that's responses across the board. We get there a lot quicker and meets lots of our targets. That is to get there within 13 minutes of a grade 1 and within 2 hours of a grade 2, where the severity is far less. We're dealing with demand significantly quicker, where we had backlogs which were quite significant within the borough. We don't have them now. We predominantly deal with today's demand today, which is a really positive thing. And the only predominantly demand that is pushed through to the next day is people that we can't get hold of, or people who want to come and see us through an appointment service, again, which is really encouraging. Our quality of investigations, I think, has improved, which is starting to show an improvement with regard to the outcomes that we provide to victim, which has improved significantly over the last 6 months. The proactivity that we've seen across the board with regards to enforcement, with regards to warrants, with regards to arrests on the borough, again, have all significantly increased. Our outstanding wanted people, which is quite key, is decreased by around 65%, which is really, really encouraging. And some of the fantastic partnerships we built across the board, particularly with the Borough Council, with the third sector. I'm not trying to suggest by any means we're exactly where we want to be, but I think has the quality of the service that we're now offering improved? Yes, it has. Are we working smarter with the resources that we have? Yes, I believe that we are. But I still think we're on a bit of an evolution with regards to where we were 12 months ago. But absolutely, I'm convinced that here in the borough, things are heading in the right direction. Our crime, nationally, crime is on the rise. Where we started in the model 12 months ago, our crime is still increased here in the borough, but we are the lowest place within the whole of Staffordshire with regards to increases. When we started the model, Newcastle Borough was actually the place with the highest increase in crime. So there's been a real swing. Our antisocial behaviour is reduced. Do I think some of that is people potentially not reporting, potentially, but I can obviously only give you the statistics that we have. I think some of the key things around improvements, particularly in the town centre, I think from policing perspective, we're absolutely playing our part. Lots of the reduction in crime has been significant. Reduction in ASB has been significant. Our calls for service reduction in the town centre has also been significant. In fact, there is a bell curve when you look at the performance that turns absolutely at the start of June 22 and is headed down for all 3 of those metrics since the inception of the new model. Qualitatively as well, I used to get regular complaints in around the town centre, probably 1 or 2 most days. I think the last complaint I had around the town centre now was around 6 weeks ago. I am not saying that it is perfection. I'm not. Town centres struggle across the board, but do I think in partnership we're starting to deliver a far better quality of service within the town centre? Yes, I think that we are. I don't want to go on for too much longer, really. I'm really conscious of time. Are there any questions for me with regards to anything that I've just said or anything in general?
Councillor Brown and then Councillor Clark.
Thank you for your report. Interesting to hear you say that crime nationally is on the rise. In my ward, anecdotally, I'm picking up that there's quite a few burglaries and house break-ins, particularly around the Silverdale Road area. I'd like to know your opinions on what you think is causing this, whether it's drug related or any kind of trends that you've picked up on.
Yeah, so I can only speak on the data. I follow acquisitive crime quite closely, particularly house burglaries, because I absolutely understand the impact. It's the most horrendous crime. Serious acquisitive crime has reduced significantly over the last 12 months, including burglary dwelling. And I'm not just trying, I'll be absolutely candid and honest with you with regards to my views, but serious acquisitive crime has reduced. I've not picked up on any trends or patterns with regards to, and actually the performance that we monitor with regards to every burglary that is reviewed every day, we haven't seen anything. But do I think that is predominantly drug related? Absolutely, I do. I think acquisitive crime and drug, alcohol misuse and addiction are intrinsically linked. Absolutely. In fact, I would probably say in my 23 years, have I seen many burglaries that haven't been linked to drugs? I can think of one person, generally.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Barker.
I think one of the big problems you've got is people are very low to report crime.
Yeah.
I know by the number for the Chesterton area, and I've been guilty myself last week where naughties, as I call them, smashed, vandalised a memorial bench. And one of the PCSOs said, have you reported it? No, I haven't, because it was a very kind gentleman has redone it, and I'm having a bit of a service. But when you ask people report, they won't ring 101, John. It's no good asking them that. I said, go on the new chat thing you've got. We promote that, and we do it for some of them just to show them how easy it is.
Yeah.
But I do think that's one of the problems, is getting the community to report it. I don't want them to come in and have a go at me for you.
Yeah, no, Lillian, I couldn't agree more. Do I think that there is underreporting with regard to crime and social behaviour? Absolutely, I do. I think some of the issues that we've had locally and nationally with 101 have impacted on that. I think as an organisation, we tried to streamline and focus in around the way that people can. And as you allude to there, I think that chat aspect online is a really strong way that we can do it and log complaints. Times have improved with regards to 101. Are they anywhere near at an acceptable level? No, they're not. I can only report on some of the kind of data that I get with an acknowledgement and acceptance that all areas within the county are probably experiencing underreporting too. So do I think underreporting is an issue? Yes. Would I encourage people to continue to report crimes and antisocial behaviour? Yes, because there is no way for us to kind of look at any analytical products of where we need to put our resource without it. So, but yeah, I do agree.
Rupert. Oh, sorry, right, you're next. Yep.
Thank you. Well, thank you for your report, and it was nice to hear some encouraging figures, especially around the town centre. I thought that was really encouraging because, of course, that's the big one that often comes up. It sounds like, like you said, are we where we want to be? Not yet, but is the trajectory good? And it sounds like, yes, it is based on the statistics, which is great. So please pass on our thanks to the hardworking officers and all that they're doing. My question is, with the new model, which sounds like it's having a positive effect, is this something that's under continual review, or is it reviewed at set periods, like another 12 months or 3 months, or is it under continual review as how it's working?
Yeah,
thank you.
No, that's a really valid question. Obviously the changes to our operating model sit within the executive and the Chief Constable, Chris Noble. I can honestly speak openly and candidly that I've been really impressed with his ability to look at what does work and what doesn't work and change alternatively, rather than just have a plan and think, well, we're on this course and that's the way we're going to remain. We have made changes to our policing plan since over the last 12 months, and some of them have been tweaked and significantly changed for the better, because actually some of the things that we've tried to do haven't worked. So it is an evolving picture. It is under constant evaluation with regards to what is working, what isn't. Do I think that we're on the right track? I honestly believe that we are. I think as an organisation, it is no secret that we've been in a really bad place. We're under old term special measures, which mean that we're underperforming and we're not offering the service to the communities that we want to be. Our chief has come in, has had a really challenging job. I think he probably maybe didn't appreciate, again, how bad things had potentially become. He is turning the ship around, not as quick as I think he wants to, but I can absolutely recognise that we're on the right way. And that's maybe because of his passion and drive to want to do it quicker. But do I still think we're on that upward trajectory? Yeah, I honestly believe that we are, which is good.
Councillor Diamond and then Councillor Noak.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Can I just ask, what is the best way to report off-road bikes that are using the highways? I've got quite a few incidents in my ward. I know I am working with one of the officers, Matthew, on something that's going on private land, but I'm getting a lot of off-road bikes coming down through the ward, and basically it's dangerous with a girl on the back with no helmet on, and I can't find out where they live. I don't know how to report it properly, because I know you can't chase bikes, and by the time somebody gets there, they've gone. What's the best way to try to get it reported, please?
So off-road bikes are notoriously difficult to deal with. They really are. You know, they're absolutely challenging to deal with from our perspective. Please continue to encourage people to report them through 101 or through the online reporting system, because we do respond to those reports. Our responses, you know, ultimately we grade our responses. We assess everything on threat, harm and risk. And sometimes, unfortunately, off-road bikes, people will say, well, they've come and they've gone. And our resource are then probably diverted some of the things with regards to blue light jobs. Do we catch as many people as we'd like with regards to off-road biking? No. But I'd encourage you to continue to report it, because we utilise our road crime team, and we've only utilised them last week with regards to trying to put in operations using drones, trying to think a little bit smarter with catching people, because actually the old way that we'd imagine it that we'd chase these people probably isn't the answer. It's around capturing them through various means, catching them through utilising drones, and then taking action after the event rather than catching them during it.
Thank you for that. There is just one that I've got an idea that he's starting at one end of the ward and he's taking the same route, and then he nearly takes me out with my dog. And it's the fact that
whereabouts is this? Sorry,
please. It's Talkfoot Lane. It's a fact that I've had two residents in one particular part of the ward that say he's come down like a public footpath gateway from one part of the estate to the other, and nearly knocked him over. And because he shouted at him, you can imagine the verbal abuse. But I'm more concerned that he's got a girl on the back that's got no helmet on, and he came through talk lights on the wrong side of the road with this girl on the back. It was ridiculous. It's just trying to find out where he's, in which part of the ward he actually lives. That's what I'm more concerned about, if we can. But I will keep reporting it.
Can I ask you to email me with the details of the exact locations and also the times? You know, the PCSOs might be aware of who that potentially is. I will pick that one up. If you can send that through to me, I'll start to look at it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Norcott.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, John, for your update. That's very encouraging to hear that the improvements are going on. 101's been mentioned several times. Is it possible to give us an update on the improvements to that service in terms of response time? And my second question is, could you give us a flavour of the initiatives that have been shown in the rural area to combat crime? Thank you.
No, two really good questions. I can't give you our full statistics with regards to our improvement. All I can speak generally is with regards to our response times to 101, our answering of 999 calls, and our answering of grade 2s has improved. I don't know the statistics, although I could get them to you off the top of my head, because obviously I've probably thought about things more specific to Newcastle. With regards to the rural crimes, again, I'll always speak honestly with you. In the old model, we would often, because we were a centralised hub within the city, and demand would be so significant, would often get pulled into the more into the city and in and around those areas. That probably impacted heavily on Newcastle. We now have officers dedicated to rural areas, where previously, before, in and around some of our satellite sites, we now have people stationed, not a significant amount of people, but 1 or 2 people per shift. And obviously we allocate people in and around areas of responsibility to try and offer some visibility in and around the rural areas. Do sometimes these staff get pulled back in when we can't resource grade 1s, our blue light jobs? Yes, they do. You know, that's me being honest with you. But do we try and keep people out within the rural areas as much as we possibly can? Yes, we do.
Thanks for that. I have seen evidence of more visibility, so well, mate, continue. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Any other comments? Right. Can I throw a curveball in?
Oh, thank you.
Nationally, really. it was reported in the press that the Met are no longer going to be called out for mental health problems.
Yeah.
Is that likely to go here?
Yeah, it is. We are currently, so nationally, some forces have made the decision that they're not going to be responding to mental health incidents. They've literally just stopped doing it. Here within Staffordshire, the decision has been made that we are following that track. But what we've done is we're working with key partners within the NHS to give them advance warning that this is what we're going to be doing. So actually things can be put in place, so there isn't a gap in service. Are we going to leave somebody in need who's in critical care and where we need to respond to? Absolutely not. Do we want the right professionals to be supporting people who are having a mental health crisis rather than it being a police officer? Yes, we do, because actually a police officer and a cell at Northern Area Custody Facility isn't the right facility, isn't the right place or person to be dealing with someone who isn't very well. Hence the reason that's why we're doing it. So we're badging it under a model called right care, right person, where ultimately as a police service, we're saying we aren't the right person. We aren't the right organisation to be offering the right care to specific individuals. So we are doing it. It's not gone live yet. All of our key partners across all the public sector are aware we are doing it. But I am very aware of some of the kind of criticisms that have potentially come in with regards to some forces. But do I think it's the right thing? Yes, I do.
Reason I'm asking is when I'm not here, I work in hotels.
Oh, right, okay.
And we have council residents that are put in there that do have mental health problems.
Yeah.
And on more than several occasions, we've had to call you because we can't get hold of anyone else.
Yeah. See, some of the issues that I think policing have is they've become the response and the emergency response to all avenues of potential emergencies, where actually we should be there with regards to crime and public safety. If there is a mental health episode where there is a fear that somebody's going to get hurt or someone's going to harm somebody, obviously we will respond. But what we're trying to facilitate is other agencies start to take responsibility with regards to where that gap is and how they're going to fill that gap. If I'm honest, I don't know what their answer is at the moment. But actually it shouldn't come from the police service. Too often I will come in and lots of our, the limited resources that we have within policing are at the Harplands, they're at a hospital, they're watching people who are having mental health episodes, and we can't resource incidents where people are having the house burgled as quickly as we would like, who are calling us an emergency and we can't get there because we're there. I'm trying to think of the right phrase, because babysitting isn't the right phrase. It absolutely isn't. We're there taking care of someone who's in an absolute crisis when we're not as trained as certain aspects of the public sector are. So I think we've taken that decision, our chief has taken that decision that we are going to follow that route. However, we're going to, rather than just do an off the cliff type of cliff drop, stop, we're not going to do it anymore. There's going to be a slow build up to it to make sure that there is a provision in place for those individuals who are going to need it.
Thank you. There's a way I'd more than say that would work, but unfortunately the other agencies won't do it, is if they keep booking them in, is have someone there on the premises that can deal with it, because most of the staff that I deal with, and me as well, we're not trained
Absolutely.
in that deal.
Yeah.
And we literally, it's beyond our control.
And I agree. And, a resolution needs to be found for this. Do I think the resolution sits with that being a police officer? No, I don't. So that's probably where the discussion is taking place of where does a resolution sit, who does it sit with, and how do we ensure that people are getting the right care at the right time when they're in a point of crisis.
I will leave it there, otherwise I'd be talking to you for an hour or so.
Yeah, okay. No
Thank you very much. Is there any other questions? Nick, I forgot your other name, but Nick.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. How do you actually categorise a mental health core? I mean, what is it? How do you distinguish it from another event?
Yeah. That it's a really broad question. I suppose it could differ every occasion. One of the things that I probably would say is that if someone was in crisis and required medical intervention, whether that be through diagnosis through any kind of doctor with regards to what condition that they might have, what mental, what they're encountering. We receive so many calls, which often off the same people, which we shouldn't be receiving. And these people are clearly unwell. And the issue that we have is we will respond. We might need to use some of our emergency powers around 136, the Mental Health Act, where we take them in to enforce that they're being assessed. But the time from us making that decision to use these powers, which we don't want to use, to taking someone into being assessed, you could have a police officer, well, it won't be one police officer, it'll be two police officers who are with that individual for the whole of their shift. And sometimes it's passed on to the next shift. So where the expectation of the community is that without their responding to crime, detecting crime, being visible in communities, our police officers are in at the hospital, potentially at custody, or potentially at the Harplands, sitting with people until they can be assessed. I don't think that's a great use of police resource. But I suppose to answer your question, there is a whole array of what a mental health episode might be, and that's for the assessment to take place at the time. But absolutely, if there is a police requirement for it, we want to be there and we need to be there. It's just trying to find out whose responsibility is what. And again, I really need to emphasize this, because this isn't around us saying, well, actually we're under-resourced and our capacity is significant. We honestly believe as an organization that we aren't the right people to be supporting these individuals. So that's hence the reason why we want to be doing this.
Any other questions? Right. Well, thank you for coming, and
no, thank you for having me,
putting up with us, and
okay,
hopefully we'll see you again, but on a brighter future. Is okay. Thank you. Go backwards now to an update from Cabinet.
I apologise for being late. If councillors Bryan, Northcote and Panther could sort out the traffic problem in Loggerheads and Whitmore, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
I will when I can find my magic wand. Thank you.
Okay, my first cabinet meeting. Newcastle Borough Council is an active member of the Staffordshire Sustainability Board. For anyone not aware, the Staffordshire Sustainability Board was created in 2022, and the purpose of the board is to gather the elected members principally for sustainability and climate change portfolios from all councils across the Staffordshire area. This will allow discussion on the relevant environmental sustainability issues, debate matters affecting multiple council authorities, and decide any outcomes and objectives for any collective projects. The Staffordshire Sustainability Board has now developed a Staffordshire adaptation strategy. This sets out the area for which councils collectively across Staffordshire can support. The aim is that the Staffordshire councils recognise that adapting to climate change is a vital part of planning for the future, and will consider adaptation planning across all our council services. Our local climate is changing in Staffordshire. In 2022, the temperature in Staffordshire went above 40 degrees centigrade. And since the year 2000, there has been at least 15 significant floods across the county, 9 of them storm events happening between 2018 and 2022. Now, it's obviously hard to predict what will happen later in the century, as it depends very much on how carbon emissions will be reduced worldwide. Along with changes to the average temperature and to the rainfall, we will also have more extreme weather in Staffordshire. Now, this will mean increased chance of floods and streams flooding, flash floods at any time of the year, more extreme heat waves and drier summers, and possibly water shortages. The vision is that a resilient Staffordshire will be an attractive, safe and healthy place to live and to work, offering an excellent quality of life, a thriving environment and a prosperous economy. Now, the Staffordshire Adaptation Strategy includes a range of objectives broken down into 3 key themes. The first one is clinical infrastructure and buildings. And this is important that our Newcastle Borough building environment is resilient to those climate-related hazards. I'm smiling now because we have the chair and the vice chair of planning, so that's very relevant for them. Number 2 is natural environment and green spaces. The timing of our seasons is changing and affecting the availability of food for many species at crucial times of the year. Our open spaces are not only valuable for biodiversity, they can also reduce air pollution and provide recreation space for people to enjoy. Number 3 is health, well-being and safety. Hotter summer days can harm people's health by causing heat stress and respiratory problems from reduced air quality. You might not be aware, but in 2022, extreme heat days in England and Wales led to a 10.4% increase in death rates compared to the non-heat periods in the same period. And finally, number 4, the local economy. Extreme weather events and changing weather patterns can disrupt business operations due to premises overheating and flooding, and can cause disruption to staff, travel, and to the supply chain. As a member of the Staffordshire Sustainability Board, the Newcastle Borough Council can help facilitate action contained within the Staffordshire Adaptation Strategy. My recommendation at my first Cabinet meeting was to adopt the Staffordshire Adaptation Strategy. I am happy to say that this was carried unanimously. Thank you.
Any questions? Councillor Norcombe.
Thank you, Councillor Hutchinson, for that report of yours. I just wanted to ask a question strategically, whether you'd be pursuing the decision makers in terms of changing the law for landowners, for example, that aren't clearing their gullies, that prevent water runoff that quickly overwhelm drainage patterns, because we have the problem of clearing out drains, and then in the next moment the sediment from the water runoff from the associated land adjacent clogs them all up again. So we're fighting a losing battle in that respect. But I'm aware that there needs to be a change in the law to make this more compulsory for landowners to adhere to cleared gullies, and also in terms of the planning regulations to firm up the fact that we need to ensure that developments don't build over the mitigation factors that we have for flooding, and that's clearly identified at the earliest possibility. So I'm really encouraged about this. I think it's the way to go, and I think further communication with the county council, I think, is of merit, and I think that needs to be raised at those meetings, that we need to sort of challenge back on government and say we need to see some changes, please, if you're not going to give us the money. Thank you.
Through you, Chair. Obviously, this was Councillor Hutchinson's first cabinet, so I suppose, and it'll be your first sustainability board next week, won't it? So I'll come back on those points Councillor Northcott, if I may. And you're absolutely right. I think one of the good things about the Staffordshire Sustainability Board is that it's there as a partnership organisation for all of the authorities in Staffordshire, and therefore, you know, hopefully it's lobbying powers are greater with there being a larger number. So yes, absolutely, we need to be pushing government on those changes. And actually, again, just to say, in terms of this adaptation strategy, it's very much an overarching strategy for Staffordshire. I think what we need to do as an authority as we go forward, and again, as we go through the process of the local plan and all of those requirements, is that we will be developing our own adaptation strategy that effectively links into that over the next year or so. And it the points you raise are really important. Hopefully that's helped.
That's good to hear, and I'm not undermining David's capabilities, because he's more than capable in his position of handling that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Norcott. Yeah, I will be at my first Sustainability Board meeting on Monday the 19th. So I will be trying to get these items put onto the agenda. I mean, certainly, yeah, we will fight for this. Regarding sort of building, I mean, I was just thinking about incorporating the green infrastructure in any build, avoiding embankments, so any land slippage during floods or flash flooding, and blocking the roads and so on. But all the points you raised are very valid. Thank you.
Thank you. If I can just come back on just a quick point there, Chair. Yes, that's important there, but particularly when we roll these strategies out, I still get residents that can say, well, you've got this strategy for this and you've got the strategy for flooding. I'm still having flash flooding that's entering my home. And, I think we just need to be a little bit more, ramp it up a little bit smarter. And I've had words with Councillor Tagg, obviously, at the county council side for his portfolio. So that joined up working will be good. Thank you.
More questions? Councillor Brown. I'm still going to call you the lady in red.
For that update, and I was really interested in your comments about climate change and how the seasons are changing, and it's making me think about all the tree planting we've done. There's a national issue with 500,000 trees have died next to a 21-mile stretch of road. Sky News reported on it. This is in Cambridge. And then a constituent got in touch with me about Lyme Valley, that some trees have died there that have been planted. And it makes me think about when we discussed this at the last meeting, having read the minutes, the idea that once the trees are planted, they'll look after themselves. Well, clearly with, the changes in climate that we're facing, lack of water, drought, etc., increased heat, that is going to, and wind, that is not going to be the case. And I'm wondering what our contingency plans for that, because that's going to be quite a substantial amount of extra funding and maintenance.
Okay, I'll come in there for me through you, Chair. Yes, I mean, it's a very valid point. I think firstly, I will say that with any significant tree planting, regardless of climate change, there will always be a number of failures. That has always been the case. People may think that it's got worse or whatever. That's not necessarily the case. However, it is challenging. What we're in the process of pulling together now is a management strategy that effectively sits on the back of the urban tree planting strategy, that effectively does what or answers the question you just made in terms of what the council's approach to managing its existing tree stock and actually new planted trees is going forward, so that everybody's clear. But as I say, we have to recognise that there will always be, and always has been, a certain percentage of failure. That is just in the nature of anything that you grow effectively. You'll be always very lucky to get 100% success. And we just need to be open and honest about that, and in terms of what our approach is going to be. Hope that's helped.
Thank you, Andrew. I think it emphasises that tree care is as important as tree planting. And I think we've tended to sort of concentrate on the tree planting side of things. So it's really, really good to hear you say there's a maintenance plan. Thank you.
Questions? On trees, I can really bore you to that because my son does research on them and he lets me know everything. He expects at least 10% to die off before maturity, and it's virtually 10% as it's going through. They're trying to do research on trying to get 100% yield. Good luck to him. Most of them are in my garden at the moment. Modular housing, again, I can talk to this until the cows come home. Right, we have, unfortunately, Stephen from Wolverhampton hasn't been able to make it, but you've got his PowerPoint from page 39 onwards. I'll give you an option because Councillor Moffat has also got a PowerPoint. And again, she couldn't make it either. From, is it the new Vic? It is. Yeah, the new Vic are dealing with, and she'd have liked to have come and presented that as well. So I can tell you why I've put it on, and then if you're in agreement, we can put it back until both parties are available to tell you why and how and what for. So I'm leaving it up to you. Do you want me to tell you why I've put it on? Or do you just want it to be put back? Right. You asked for it, and you're going to get it. Right. Modular housing might not sound like it should be in with this committee, but modular housing is actually beneficial on the way it saves environmental materials, also on the low cost of heating and the cost. Right. For a normal house build, you have various factors: the weather, the cost of materials, and the manpower, because they're always they're not guaranteed to have that particular same manpower all the way along. They'll go out and get contractors. With modular housing, you're in one place. They have a supply of contractors. The workforce are indoors, and they're not looking to get any extra, or if they are, it's going to be indoors. So there's a constant workforce. And when you're indoors, the weather doesn't really bother you as much, unless your roof blows off. So them are the main reason. I've been looking at modular housing since 2016. I've even visited the factories, and I ain't brilliant on heights, but when the roof is only 6 foot off the floor, when they doing it, I can cope with the 6 foot off the floor. When it's 16 foot off the floor, I don't want to know. So everything is easier to put together. The time scale, as we all know from various governments, the housing building, the timescales always fell behind. Again, it's mainly weather, supply, various things that happen. That doesn't happen. Once the site is ready, you can virtually move in within 2 weeks. It doesn't take months to build. They're already there, done. So yeah, that's one of the reasons I put it on. The other is the impact on the cost and affordability. There is, I think it's Finland. I might be wrong, but it's one of the European countries has now got the lowest amount of homeless because they've come across homes first using modular housing. The government have got together with housing authorities and charities, and they put this together, and the rate is something like 90% success, that people are no longer living on the streets because they're looking at the reason why they are. Family breakups, can't afford mortgages, can't afford the rents, where modular housing can fill that gap. in short, other than keeping you here for hours, that's why I put it on. Now, like I say, you've got the PowerPoint from Steve. Councillor Moffat wants to do a piece on it. Would you be willing for it to come back later when both are available? Okay, so that'll go on the work programme. And that'll save me keeping you for 3 hours telling you. Councillor Norcup.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Chair. If you could actually provide the caveat that some of the likely questions will be what's the maintenance in the future going to be like, and also sort of figures in terms of repairs over a time period. Those are the crucial things I think people try to understand, I think, for it to be a viable project. Thank you.
The modular housings now have at least a 60-year lifespan. If you look at prefab housing that was built during the war, it had a 40-year lifespan, and in my area, we still got them. You know, it's just like every other house. If you keep the maintenance up, they last even longer. But yeah, we can get all that sorted, and I'd even take you a trip round to a factory, but I don't know if we can have a bus for take.
I have actually seen some of the modular systems, been and visited the factories, and it looks very exciting in the way forward. But I think for members to have any confidence in it, they need to know the longevity of it and the guarantees that can be built into the package for this to be actually sustainable going forward, because we've heard of claims of some window manufacturers, you know, lifetime, 10 years, 15, 25, etc. And some of them are extremely tired after a short period. So I will be interested in the committee. Thank you.
Yep, I shall endeavour to get those and get them sorted. Nick?
Thank you, Chair. As a teaser, could you tell us briefly exactly what the walls are made of? I mean, how do they differ from normal houses? Got your bricks and insulation and
your internal is usually wood. It's a wooden frame, and your exterior are cladding in either brick or whatever substance you like. I have seen them done in, if I say plastic PVC, that's been there. Ting Dean have some real good looking structures. There's other manufacturers available before somebody says I'm trying to promote them. But yeah, there's best way. Have you been McDonald's lately?
Yes.
Yeah, that's cladded the same way. A lot of your structures that are steel framed end up being cladded in the same way. So when you get in these shops and like McDonald's that shoot up rather rapidly, they're done on the same basis, but instead of using a wooden frame, they use a metal frame. So, but yeah, they stand up to the time, so they will. Hopefully that's answered it. Anybody else? Go on, I can talk for hours on it, honest. Okay. Work programme. Where are we? Right. Oh, September. Okay, so in September, Sustainable Environment Strategy Annual Report, homelessness, allotments. Oh, speaking of allotments, no.
I got a message that he was didn't want to come and kind of upset anybody because he was very disappointed and he didn't want to come and talk about it this evening.
Don't you know we're councillors? Everybody upsets us.
No, he's looking to look at local cricket club. They've offered him a patch of land, so he's looking at that.
Okay.
Unless
I still think your idea was weird.
You carry on with my idea. I'll support you.
Walleys Quarry update. Chief Fire Officer and cycle routes. And I think that does seem quite a bit on that one. So,
Chair, if I may, yeah, I think there is, and if you're wanting to bring the presentation back for the modular housing in September, both the Wolverhampton one and Councillor Moffat's, I would suggest maybe there's some meaty things on there that you may wish to push one or two of them back to November.
yeah,
Because the environment, the sustainable environment strategy update, it will be quite a big report in itself, because it's looking back over the last 12 months about what we've done within the council. So, as I say, if you want to have the modular housing on there as well, I would suggest we look to move one of the other ones, at least one of the other ones back. But it's up to yourself and the committee, obviously.
okay, we'll open it up for suggestions. I think Walleys Quarry's got to stay on. That's got to be there. We can't ask the Chief Fire Officer to disappear, so we've got to keep him on. Sustainability environment report. Would that hurt if that was dropped off until the next?
We could do it in November. I mean that'll be one that myself and Councillor Hutchinson do. We'd be happy to do it in November. It will be going to cabinet hopefully in September, but that's fine. We can do it in November because, as I say, it will be quite a meaty subject for us to go through.
Okay, I'd like to keep the homeless one on in any case, so we'll keep that on. So, any objections for the environment one to go to the next one? No, okay then we'll give you another month. You make it longer.
Yes, I'll get that one moved, and then I think in November you've got, it's not too bad.
Yeah, so that if we bang it on November, that makes it
a
good one to put on. Before anybody says anything, you do see that Buzzgate is still on, but we haven't heard anything yet, so it is still there. It hasn't been forgotten about. So the November one will have the town centre, Walleys Quarry again, and now sustainable environment. Maybe if that leaves us a gap if anything comes in between time. And that's it, isn't it, for that? Yeah. So is everybody in agreement? Rupert?
Let's ask, it says suggestions of potential future items. It says 850 celebrations, but I've forgotten what that was for to discuss about, like a review of how successful they were, or
it was supposed to be telling us what was happening, but
it's already happening though. So
it's happened.
Yeah, it's happened. So
yeah. I suppose we could put that in November. We'll have the results. We should have the results, yeah.
We can certainly put it on, and then, you know, if come September you decide you don't want it or whatever, you can review it then, can't you? So we'll put it on, and then see where we wish to be. Thanks.
Yeah, so we can find out how successful it was rather than what was happening. Right. Okay. Have I scribbled on yours?
That's fine.
Sorry.
I need them.
Any public questions? Ooh. I don't think so. Any urgent business? Discuss modular housing again if you want. Date of next meeting. The 7th of September, 2023. Right. So in that case, no other questions. I'll call the meeting closed and have a pleasant evening.